Welcome back to another Star Sports Betting People, and I have some fabulous news. I am no longer interviewing behind the screen on Zoom. I am here, and as you can tell, I am here at Goodwood, and it is a glorious day as per usual here at Goodwood. Now, the reason I'm here today is because I am interviewing Ed Arkell, who is clerk of the course. So without further ado, let's meet Ed. With Ed Arkell, who is clerk of the course, and we're going to find out a little bit about his job. So Ed, can you tell me a little bit firstly, what exactly is the clerk of the course?
So the clerk of the course looks after all the racing aspect of the race course, so the racing surface that we're standing on now, and then anything to do with owners, trainers, horses, jockeys and stables, and usually the lawns and green spaces as well.
So how did you get into this? Because for me, I can't imagine this is something at school you said this is what I want to be, unless it is.
No, it wasn't. I been racing at Cheltenham and was lucky enough to know Simon Claisse, who was the clerk there then, and he gave me a job driving a vet, and I got hooked. And everybody I met, I said, "Can I come and shadow you, or have you got a job on a race day?" So I've done, fence attending at Warwick, or helped in the stables at Ascot, and all that sort of thing. And then I worked for John Dunlop, the trainer, for a couple of years, and then got a trainee clerk's job.
Did you ever ride yourself, or?
No, nobody's stupid enough to let me loose on a race course with a racehorse. It's bad enough on the gallops, but yeah.
So just tell me a little bit about what it is like for you on a race day. So what would be your schedule? So
I'd be in for about 5:30 in the morning, do half an hour sort of paperwork, emails and bits and pieces, and then we walk the track, give the going update by about 6:45. So that the owners, trainers, jockeys and everybody know what's going on. Answer any phone calls from trainers. There'll always be a few queries about ground or this and that. Pop down to the stables, make sure everything's all right there, have some breakfast in the canteen, see any of the travelling head lads that have been in overnight. Back up to the race course, do a few bits and pieces, and then we walk the track again about 2 hours before racing with the chairman of the stewards, just as sort of final check and another pair of eyes, and then we get into racing. Once we start racing, providing everything's going okay, it's very much sort of, be about parade ring up to the steward's box to watch the races and just generally talking to people. It's when things go wrong, you start to earn your money with doctors, vets and all that sort of thing.
So just going back to your emails and things like that, do you have to email most of the trainers in the morning, or do you ring them?
No, that's all done automatically on the BHA racing admin site. So we upload our details there onto the system and then upload onto the main site, which then notifies all the trainers, and the trainers can pop on, have a look at it, and they can look at not just the going for here but anywhere in the next 10 days. And then the various owners and jockeys will have access to that as well. But there'll always be queries from trainers, maybe they're just not quite sure, is it going to be all right for the horse, or what's it going to do, is the rain going to come? I think the worst one for us is when the weather forecast's a little uncertain or there's rain on the day, and then trainers have obviously entered horses hoping for it to rain or hoping it won't rain, and then everybody gets a little bit twitchy.
Now, before we get into that, because obviously as we know the going is very important for racing, but I just wanted to know, are you a one-man band, or do you have a whole team to help you?
I've got a ground team of 6 people here, so they're the ones that do all the hard work, make this track look as well as it does. We strim all around this running rail. There's about 5.5 miles of running rail. We strim around that at least once a week. So they do all the hard work, but actually when it comes to walking the track and giving the going, it's myself, and the head groundsman comes with me sometimes.
Now, I just pictured a huge lawnmower. So
yep.
It's an actual strimmer that comes along the grass and trims it?
No, we'd actually mow the track. We've got a 7-metre wide mower, so you get through your lawn fairly quickly.
Yeah.
But actually under the rail you can see all the running rail in each side.
Yeah.
We'd strim around that, because obviously you can't get a mower underneath it. You can mow both sides, but then you've got a running rail leg every however often. So there's about 5 miles to do.
So when you have the lawnmower, how do you stop it from cutting it too short? Because that's another thing I want to ask. There's a specific length, isn't there, for the grass and what it has to be?
Yeah, sort of 3 to 4 inches for flat racing. Up here we tend to stick at 4 inches, and you can set the mower very easily. It's a huge professional piece of kit, so that works easily enough, and it's just a case of virtually winding the wheels down or up, depending whether you want to raise or lower the cart height.
Well, I think now we're talking about grass, let's have a look at the grass. Now, I'm sure you guys can see, it's just the most perfect grass, isn't it, on a track? And how do you maintain it?
Very much, we have a fertiliser programme that we put in place. That's what keeps it growing. Really, grass only just needs water, a bit of sunlight and some food to keep growing. So that's the sort of the basis of it. And then regular mowing, we adjust the height of the mowing quite a lot, and that just keeps the sward thick in the bottom. We do various aeration work, slitting it and spiking it, and that just helps the roots go down, because the most important thing on the surface is to have a good, solid, stable surface that doesn't chop up too much or doesn't become loose when the horses are running on it. So the more you can do to cut into it, so a slitter would be effectively a roller with knife blades on it. It just keeps putting slits into the soil and helps the roots get down deep, and also does what's called root pruning, which is effectively cutting the roots and encouraging them to grow again.
What happens if we've had a really hot summer? Because grass can get burnt, can't it?
Grass can get burnt. We spend a lot of time irrigating, and irrigating is a bit of a dark art. It's very controversial, but at the end of the day, the injury statistics are very clear that the quicker the ground gets, the worse the injury rate is. There's also the misconception you just put enough water on to keep the grass growing. Well, if you do that, you're just watering the very top surface, and all that happens is, instead of the roots going right down, the roots go down, find they can't get any water, and then start to come back up to find the water, and then it's shallow rooting. It goes back to what we were discussing before about the top chipping off. So you've either got to not water it at all, which means you won't have a race course, especially up here in the summer, or you have to keep plenty of moisture in it, so you've got water right through the profile, and then the roots go right down and you get a good solid root base.
Where did you learn all of this? Is it something you learn on the job then, as you know, when you ask for jobs?
Yeah, I'm very much. I did a land agent's degree at university, but really you do about a year's training programme once you get a trainee clerk's job, and you have to do various groundsman's courses as part of that, and then it's learning on the job, and it always takes time. I've done all sorts of tracks, everywhere from Sedgefield down to here, and every track is different, and you have to learn what the track likes and what it doesn't like, and what works really well at Sedgefield, for example, will not work at Goodwood. We're very high up on the downs here, it dries very fast, so it's a very different situation from doing, say, Sedgefield or Lingfield that can get so wet on clay soil.
And is that why, like a place like Lingfield, they have an all-weather track, because it will get so wet?
Why they put in at Lingfield, I don't know, but it's a fascinating track and very different, because they did a lot of work to it. When they put the all-weather in, they realigned the back straight, and obviously, as with everything, soil takes time to settle down. And this part of the track we're on now here at Goodwood was built in the 1850s, so the track originally stops about the 3 furlong marker. And then it was extended by the Duke and George Bentinck to make a longer, flatter straight. So if you look over the rail on the far side, you can see there'll be up to a sort of 50 or 60 foot drop down into the car park. Well, this is all man-made ground, and this part of the track will react differently from anything past the 3 furlong marker that was natural ground. And you can virtually walk in about 3 yards. You can tell where you've walked off one onto the other, just because of the way it reacts differently, and it needs a bit more water than this does, or this holds its moisture better than that, whichever way you want to look at it.
How do you maintain the track off season?
What we tend to do as soon as we finish racing is we'll cut this down as short as we can, so we'll get down to about 1.5 inches, and then we put some scarifying discs and rakes through it to really rake out all the dead matter, the lateral growth, the thatch. Really make sure we've got all of that out, because that tends to hold on to the moisture, and it's also, if you allow it to build up too much, it becomes a perfect little habitat for turf pests like leather jackets and chafer grubs, which then eat the turf root, and then effectively it's like running on a mat on a polished floor. You know how it just pulls up underneath you, and you can literally just pick the turf up if you get an infestation of those. So we do that, and then we'd probably slit it, spike it, overseed it, so we'd put on something like 20 grams of grass seed a square metre with a direct drill, so about 1.5 tons of grass seed. Get that going, put some fertiliser on it, and then literally just leave it alone all winter, and start to think about probably giving it a cut, depending what the winter and the spring's like. But sort of March time, we'd probably go over it with we've got a ride-on mower that's got 1.5 metre cutting deck, and we'll literally cut with that, and it'll take the team about 5 or 6 days to do it, just because it'll still be too wet to put the big tractor and mower on it.